Hello there, everyone. For those of you who may have missed our first lesson on the PoSSUM annotation strategy, or for those who just need a review, this video is for you. So the PoSSUM strategy is an acronym, kind of like races. Each letter stands for something. That was actually invented by the English teachers here at West Philadelphia High School. You may have learned other ways of annotating or marking up a text from other teachers, and that's more than fine. This is just a specific strategy we're going to practice in my class to better engage with our text, to understand what we're reading, and to help us with multiple choice and essay questions. So we're going to go over what each letter stands for, and then I'm going to demonstrate practicing using the PoSSUM strategy on a text. So you should have these notes in Google Classroom, but I'm going to go over them quickly. PoSSUM question mark. The first three letters actually happen before you even start to read. P is purpose. Before you even start to read a text, you should start with saying, why am I reading this? Are you reading it for fun? Are you reading it for an assignment? Do you have guided questions you need to answer? Do you have an essay question you need to answer? Whatever questions you are responsible for writing, you need to make sure you are carefully looking for those answers as you read the text. So to do this, when we first look at our questions, we star or highlight the keywords. What am I actually reading for in the text to help me answer these questions? The second thing you do before you start reading, OS actually go together to stand for overview the structure. This is something that a strong reader does without even noticing, but some of us haven't been taught to do that, so we want to practice it just like any new skill you learn. When you first approach any kind of text, you want to ask yourself, what kind of text is this? Is it a poem? Is it a story? Is it an article? Is it a speech? Is it an ad? How long is it? Is there a heading, a title, an author, a year? Are there footnotes? Are there images? Are there graphs? Taking a moment to just survey the text visually, not even having to read what's actually in it, is actually a huge tool to help you better understand what is in it. So before we read, we stop and think, what is the purpose? What am I reading for? And overview the structure. Then once we actually start reading, as we are reading, we star, or if you are in Google Docs or on a virtual setting, highlight any details or words that help you understand the purpose. So if there is an answer you find in the text that will help you with one of your questions, you want to star that or highlight it. That way, when you're going back to answer your questions later, you have your evidence there for you. So you're going to want to star anything that helps you answer those questions. The next thing you want to do while you're reading is the next two steps, really, and that's underlining and main idea. When you are reading a text, especially if it's a text that you're not engaged, maybe you're confused, maybe it's boring, you want to stop every so often and say, what was the main idea of what I just read? So we recommend either every paragraph or every section, maybe it's a few paragraphs put together, you stop and you write MI in the margins. That's on the side of the text, standing for main idea. And you just give a few words to sum up what was that section about. Maybe they were talking about a specific person, a specific time period. Maybe they were arguing a certain idea. Just make a quick note of it. That helps you better engage and understand the text. While you're reading, you can underline or highlight any words or details that help point out that main idea. Any text you read, if you're going to have to write an essay or answer questions on it, you need to be in good understanding of the author's main ideas. And lastly, this is something you probably maybe do already, question marks. If you don't understand a word, an idea, if something confuses you, if maybe you just want to know more or you're curious how the reader or how the writer got to that conclusion, put a question mark. An easy, quick way to engage yourself in the text on a deeper level. So when you handwrite a text, I personally like to annotate with pen and paper, a highlighter in my hand. It might look something like this. They highlight the word, or I'm sorry, they star the words in the prompt, so they're looking for the purpose, they're looking for text structure and author's purpose. So while they read, that's what they know they're looking for. They took a moment to look at the heading, what's in a language, the title, heading's introduction, the conflict, took note of that, the paragraph numbers. As they were reading for each little section, they summarized a main idea in the side. They starred and underlined anything that was going to help them either understand the purpose or the main idea better. And they put a question mark where something confused them. So on paper, this is what a strong PoSSUM annotation strategy should look like. However, since we are digital and remote right now, I'm going to show you what it can look like in the digital setting. Okay, so an article we read in class together, if you were there, about local children's reactions to 9/11 tragedy. Before I even start to read, I want to look at my purpose. So I'm going to scroll down to look at my questions here. For all the questions, choose the best response. I see one about which of the following statements best expresses the central idea of the article. So I want to make note of just central idea, another way to say main idea. Now to highlight that, I'm going to go up and click on my highlighter button at the top of my screen, and I like to use yellow or green usually. So while I'm reading, if I see anything that helps me understand the central idea, I want to also highlight that and maybe summarize that main central idea on the sides. Now typically you go through all the text and make sure you understand all the questions. For this video, I'm just going to look at the one. So I've understood the purpose. Why am I reading it? What am I looking for in the text? Now I overview the structure. I notice my title at the top. I notice my author. I notice that this event is about 9/11, which in my little summary says was September 2001, but I notice my date is 2011. So this was written 10 years later. That might be important to make note of. I notice I get a little summary at the top. I have a picture of the Statue of Liberty and the World Trade Center. I have this little 1 here, and when I look down, I see a 5 and I see a 10. So I'm getting paragraph numbers along the side. That might be helpful. I'm noticing a lot of small paragraphs, a lot of quick 1-line, 2-line little paragraphs, and I'm seeing lots of quotation marks, so a lot of quotes. And I also noticed these little number 1s and number 2s in my text are going to tell me down here in the footnotes some more information I might need to know to better understand the article. So as I'm reading, when I get to number 1 for John F. Kennedy, I can come to the bottom and it's going to tell me more about John F. Kennedy so I can understand better. I also noticed that this is an article. It says this article discusses. So I know it's not a story, it's not made up, this is true nonfiction text. It's not a poem, it's not a play, it's not a story, and that's going to help me understand it a little better. Now that I've overviewed the structure, I've looked at the purpose, I can start reading and starring for the main ideas. So I'm just going to read this first portion for you today. I get so confused, I don't understand why they do this. What made people so mad? Said the 5th grader at Plummer Elementary in North Hills. While most American adults can recall exactly where they were and what they were doing when they learned of the attacks, children are learning about it as part of history, like the assassination of President John F. Kennedy or the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So before I just keep reading, I stop and say, did I understand what I just read? It starts out with a quote from a 5th grader about not understanding, being confused. And then the author, for the first time, jumps in and gives us their opinion. So that's probably important, and I want to make note of that. So with my mouse highlighting this, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to highlight it myself. And then I'm going to click on this little plus arrow to give a comment box. I'll write M-I. And in my own words, sum up what is the main idea there to say. That adults can remember what happened, children are learning it in school. So adults remember 9/11. Kids learning in school. Okay, and then of course I see my first 2 footnotes. So to better understand those, I can go down here and I can read those 2 footnotes to help me understand what the author meant by those references. And then I would continue on, continuing to highlight or star anything that helps me understand one of my questions, to summarize main ideas along the side. And if I have a question about something, again, I can highlight it, do my comment button, put a question mark, and that just lets me know there was something there that confused me a little bit. So if you have any other questions about the PoSSUM strategy or how to engage in a text by annotating, please make sure to reach out to Ms. G.